Hey new scientists, Dr. Chernoff here, and welcome back to Statistics for the New Social Scientist. Today we're going to talk about comparing two population means using SPSS. Now the first thing you want to do is open up SPSS. So here we've got SPS open and all ready to go. We then go up to Analyze, we then go down to Compare Means, and then we click on Independent Samples t-test. From this menu here to the left, we see a list of all the variables that are available to us. So what we want to do is we want to click on the variable that contains the two groups that we want to compare. So in this example, I'm interested in the differences between those who identified as female and not female. So I'm going to click on this dichotomous variable here, and I'm going to click on this lower right-facing arrow. So the variable gender_D has been moved into this section called the grouping variable. I then click on the button Define Groups. So this lets me define the values that are in my database that represent my two different groups. So group 1, I'm going to enter in a 1 value. So all survey respondents who entered a value of 1 identified as female. For group 2, I'm then going to enter a 0. So 0 was used to identify everybody else who identified as something other than female. I then click Continue. I then look through this list of variables for some interval or ratio level variable that I'm interested in. So here I'm interested in this fear of crime variable. So I click on it, and then I click on this upper right-facing arrow. So this takes the fear of crime variable and puts it in the section Test Variables. I then click on Options, and this lets me set my significance level. So here, the default is set to 0.05. So if you want a 0.05 significance level, you have to enter in a 95% confidence interval percentage. I then click Continue, and then I click OK. So then the statistics viewer shows us the results produced by SPSS. So here we see this table called Independent Samples Tests. The key information here resides in these three columns, this T, DF, and sig2 tail. So the column T shows all your test statistics, DF shows your degrees of freedom, and sig2 tail shows your p-value for a two-tailed test. Now one thing we can notice about this table is that there are actually two rows. So one where equal variance is assumed, and another where equal variance is not assumed. So depending on which assumption you feel qualified to make is going to affect which of these sig2 tail p-values you're going to use. So if you think that it's safe to assume that the population variances are the same, go ahead and use the first sig2 tail. If, however, you think that the population variances are different, then you want to use the second sig2 tail. Now remember, the p-value given here is for a two-tailed test. So if you want to conduct a two-tailed test, then this is the correct p-value to use. On the other hand, say you wanted to conduct an upper tail test. So if you wanted to conduct an upper tail test and the test statistic is positive, then what you do is you take that default p-value and divide it by 2. If, however, that test statistic is negative, what you have to do is take that default p-value, divide it by 2, and then subtract that value from 1. Okay, so that's it. That's how you can use SPSS to conduct a two-population test of hypotheses comparing two population means. The rest of the assignment is now up to you.